Welcome back, Wild Ones. 1 year ago, I performed an involved and very formal ritual to banish some pretty icky stuff from my life and to make myself impermeable to that negativity. Over the course of the last 13 months, I've performed daily and weekly rituals to reinforce the effort and to keep it actively working over time to alter my spiritual or psychic muscle memory. Since it's been a full year of this process, the question is, did it work? I've got some things to tell you. In this video, I'm going to report how I closed out, or rather am closing out, the year-long process and what results I've experienced and changes I'm seeing now moving forward. Just a quick recap. I'm talking about the curse-breaking ceremony I performed last year. I had one video discussing the nature of that curse and what I was dealing with and how I came to discover and understand the problem, and another video detailing the ritual I developed and performed to both banish negative energy from wafting in and to make myself reflective and impermeable against it, continuing in perpetuity. And I will link those two videos in the description box for reference, wherever that description box is floating now. Okay, so how to close out an energetic project that has spanned Hi, you coming up? Hi. There you go. Good job. Okay, so how to close out an energetic project that has spanned a year and some change. Originally, my plan was to perform the big ritual over again, like bookends. I thought it would be a nice way to close the year with a heavy redose of intention. However, what I discovered as the end of that year drew nigh was that I wasn't feeling it, and it felt silly, honestly, because it seemed to me like it would be suggesting that the process had failed or was losing effectiveness and needed a booster. And I'm very happy to report that that isn't the case. But we'll get to that. So I ended up sipping my banishing tea every day and lighting my banishing candle every week for an extra 4 or 5 weeks while I tried to sort out how best to close the process. I knew I needed to do something to formally thank the two deities I called in to assist me. If you'll recall, I asked Saturn and Sekhmet to oversee this project for me, and I had never before worked with either deity. So they were really doing me a solid here. But everything I thought of that I could do just seemed like too small, too trite of a gesture to honor a year of beneficent overseeing. And then one morning recently, it just came to me. A year and a month of gratitude. I will match like for like. These two deities have spent a full year helping me change my energetic relationship with reality. There is no other way to properly show my gratitude than to honor them in turn for at least the same amount of time. So now I've begun 13 months of gratitude. I will do something to honor Saturn every Saturday. And since Sekhmet is associated with the sun disk, I'll honor her every Sunday. I feel really, really good about this. It is just and fair, and it gives me a way to show them that I am serious in my gratitude. So, instead of one big formal ceremony for gratitude, I can find small things to do every week. I suspect this is the best route I could have taken with this. So, this last Saturday, or Saturn's Day, I began with cleaning some things out of my life that went tragically wrong for me. I have not been able to let them go, even though there was no way to salvage. We don't need to discuss the specifics here. I'm probably going to be raw about it for the entirety of the rest of my existence. So my office was stacked full of the physical remnants of this personal tragedy in my life. I was basically holding on to the corpse of what my life should have been. And because I wasn't letting it go, it couldn't be released back into the cycle of energy, and this means I was blocking the flow of karma, right? I was basically at odds with one of the fundamental aspects of Saturn. So it was extremely painful, but I let it go into Saturn's care. I cleaned all of it out of my office, and I did not feel better. I felt worse, but that's a good thing, because you can't get past things without grieving them. And I was holding on to that shit the way Miss Havisham held on to that frickin' moldering wedding cake. So I maintain that even though I feel even worse now, it's because I was delaying having to process it all, because it was just too heartbreaking and humiliating. And I should think that I've opened the door to eventually, maybe one day, not being absolutely haunted by this loss every waking moment of every day. Anyway, that was a long explanation. Basically, I made a gesture that was very painful for me to execute, that I believe honors Saturn. Moving forward, I'll do something every week, probably not so heavy, in honor of Saturn. And on Sunday, for Sekhmet, I started things off a little more softly. I read that blood red drinks are a good offering for her. As well, I understand that she abhors waste, so I made a spicy cranberry pomegranate tea. And I was able to use ingredients that might have otherwise gone to waste. For instance, the cranberries had been sitting in my freezer since last Thanksgiving. It turned out wonderfully, and I spent the evening sipping that rich, tart, spicy tea, toasting Sekhmet, and thanking her for stepping in to help me. Likewise, moving forward, I will find different ways to honor her every week. So that's the plan. It's a different way to close out this last year than I had originally planned, but I think this way is better because it honors the real results that manifested. Speaking of which, how effective was the ritual for me? Here's what went down. First of all, I spent the year in as close to total isolation as I could. This wasn't difficult since COVID has been a great reason to limit human exposure, and I'm an introvert, so I'm good at going without the human interaction. I wanted this isolation to give myself enough of a buffer to really focus on the work without having to resort to throwing up my shields constantly. Even so, I was still having to drive to the grocery store every few weeks, and I did make a few thrifting forays. What I quickly started to notice, almost right away, was that I wasn't getting intense adrenaline highs while I was in the store. The ritual didn't take away my discomfort or distaste for dealing with humans, but it reduced my anxiety so much it was probably down to normal people levels. And that may not sound like much, but this was an absolute first for me. I've never been able to be in a public space without being on full alarm the entire time. And then when I would get home, I didn't have to immediately crash and recover. I could still get things done the rest of the day. That's life-changing. So fairly early in the year of banishing work, I was feeling pretty awesome because I now had a way to do the human thing without adrenal overload and without long recovery times. And even if the effect should eventually wear off, I could just go back to the banishing ritual and get myself back into a better frame of energy. I felt pretty powerful. My goddess, I've needed this all my life. But then, the real test came in August. The year of energy work was nearly up. One of my friends was having a birthday, and she wanted to celebrate, in part, by going to a mall. And this isn't just any mall. This is a giant campus of stores and a mall and swarms upon swarms of human beings, all crowding and milling around. This is basically my worst nightmare, socially speaking. I was dreading it. I love my friend. I think birthdays are truly important. I love that she wants to include me in her special day, but I very nearly canceled just because I couldn't bear the thought of all those tight moshes of humans. But I'm a big girl. I've even got the panties to prove it. And I decided that helping a friend celebrate a birthday was worth the inevitable fallout to my adrenal system and the 2 or 3 days of recovery it might take for that kind of human exposure. So, I gritted my teeth and I made the drive up to Columbus. Then we headed to the mall and traipsed all over the place. I can't tell you how many avenues we went down or how many stores we popped into or how many gaggles of loitering humans we passed through. And I gotta tell you, it was nothing I could have ever expected. I had been there for well over an hour before it occurred to me that I was placid. I was blithe, relaxed. I was in shock. This has never happened to me in a public space before. I was being occasionally buffeted by people's shoulders as we navigated past each other in the crowds, and I wasn't getting full-body electrical jolts jamming my faculties. In fact, as I sort of energetically reached out my feelers to ascertain what I was experiencing, I realized I felt insulated, like almost being in some kind of fishbowl or underwater almost. Like there was a soundproof barrier between myself and everything else. It was eerie in the most wonderful way. I realized I wasn't feeling any human emotion other than my own. Every other person I saw was a complete blank slate. I was getting nothing. Not their anxiety, not their frustration, not their grief, not their entitlement, not their low-grade simmering anger, nothing. It was like looking at pictures of people rather than actual people. Now, I didn't push it. I didn't try to reach out through it and feel the ocean of human detritus because this is a brand new thing and I don't know if I can control it at will yet. I need to practice with it more first. But I'm walking along with my friend group and just laughing to myself and marveling at this crazy experience. So calm, so flat, so not panicky. I mean, is this what it's like to be a non-empath? Is it really that easy to just not feel everyone's panic and grief and anxiety all at once? Holy hell, it was so peaceful. I left the mall and my friends that day absolutely elated. I was fine. I was okay. It was a long day of adventuring and I would be worn out when I got home, but from the excursion and not from gulping down lungfuls of the turgid soup of humanity. I didn't have to spend 2 or 3 days recuperating. I was fine. I don't know how silly I sound making a big deal out of this, but for me, this is an earth-shattering, paradigm-shifting change of events. I feel amazing. I feel powerful. I feel like I can foray into the morass of humanity without paying dearly for it. This is opening up new ways of navigating the world for me, and I'm looking forward to getting more familiar with how it all works. It turns out that while energetic shielding is exhausting, energetic reflectivity can be as easy as breathing. In the end, this ritual and this year of dedication to changing my energetic outer layer has been wildly more successful than I even imagined it could be. And I'm looking forward to learning how to control it. I would like to be confident that I can allow openings for individuals without taking down the reflective layer in its entirety. And in the wake of being able to let go of those rigid, heavy, constant shields, I've discovered something unexpected. I'm starting to become sensitive to other sources of energy flow. Not from humanity, but from, I don't know, the universe, nature, the divine. I'm still sorting out what it is I'm experiencing with that. But what I'm trying to explain is that it turns out having to keep those fortress walls up all the time, I was blocking anything and everything from getting in or out, including the good stuff that we all need to be absorbing naturally, the way the earth receives and absorbs rain. I'm still unpacking all of the outcomes here. It's new territory for me. But I'm excited now for what lies ahead. This is finally starting to be a fun journey, and I'm just so happy to be able to report that the focus and effort I put into banishing bad energy and returning it to sender really worked. Okay, that sounds a little yay for me, but I thought many of you might be curious as to the results I got from all that effort. And I would just as soon be as transparent with all of this as I can be. And thank you to everyone who watched, or is watching, or will be watching my curse-breaking series. It's nice to think that sharing the struggle might allow for a positive effect somehow, for someone, somewhere out there. The road is difficult, and maps are vague, and if we can help each other navigate around the potholes and washed out bridges, we might actually succeed in making this world just a little bit better place. So that's my story. I didn't expunge my sensitivities. I've just managed to make myself less vulnerable to ambient human radiation. I'm extremely pleased with the way events have transpired, and I'm going to spend the next year of weekends making sure the gods who aided me know for certain that their efforts were much appreciated. Okay, I'll see you next time, and keep it wild.